Yeah, so hi everyone and good morning and welcome to the 106th session of the Cameroon Town Hall. You're all welcome. This is the 106th edition of the Cameroon Town Hall, and it's always a pleasure to have you all join us every other week. This initiative was birthed just shortly after the pandemic had started, and the whole goal was to bring together health professionals across the world in the diaspora to really help alleviate some of the challenges with the health crisis at the time in Cameroon. And out of this initiative has birthed really a whole consortium of experts who are dedicated to addressing some of the fundamental health issues in Cameroon, whether those are in clinical medicine, in public health, in health policy, etc. So we're really thrilled today to have Professor Paul Mobit with us today to talk about the state of cancer in Cameroon, and particularly the role that the Cancer Oncology Center in Cameroon is playing. So welcome to everyone. I do see some familiar faces in the town hall. I just want to give them a chance to maybe say hi and tell us how they feel about the session. I'll start with Franklin Maloba. Welcome, Franklin.
Yeah,
Franklin.
thank you, Dr. Brian. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here after a long absence. You know, it's summer holiday and with the family and stuff like that. After a busy period, you need that time off sometime. Yeah, thank you once more for being here. And thanks, Professor Paul, for giving us this night and exciting talk. And thank you and your team also for always making this possible for us to learn something. Thank you and nice day. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Franklin. It's always great to have you here as well. I also want to say hi to Dr. Kenji as well. Dr. Kenji, welcome.
Hey, Brian. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking so forward to this great discussion. I know we've had a lot of talk regarding infectious diseases in Cameroon, and cancer is one of those things that we don't talk a lot about, and I'm just so excited for the talk today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Kenji. Et je vois aussi Franck, Dr. Franck Noama. Je sais que tu nous as rejoint la dernière fois et c'était tellement un échange très intéressant. Bienvenue aussi à cette session. Et comment est-ce que vous vous sentez par rapport à la session d'aujourd'hui, sur la conversation d'aujourd'hui?
Non, non, je crois que c'est très intéressant. Et bon, en fait, moi, je suis un médecin de la diaspora. Je suis chirurgien, je travaille en Italie. Et avoir pratiquement des informations fraîches sur le terrain pour avoir une réelle, comment on dit, connaissance de la réalité locale, c'est très important. Aussi pour aussi éventuellement réfléchir sur des projets innovants, ce genre de meeting, c'est vraiment une source vraiment très précieuse. Merci beaucoup. Merci pour l'opportunité.
Ah, merci beaucoup, Franck, et bienvenue encore sur la plateforme. So, Dr. Paul Moby, we do have just like Dr. Frank has indicated, it's a surgeon in diaspora as well. Really lots of distinct sort of expertise in different areas. And one of the vision is to see how collaborative projects can be birthed through the town hall that can potentially enhance some of the work that the center in Cameroon is doing as well. So thank you. I want to transition and give the chair of the town hall, welcome the chair of the town hall, Dr. Mono Foma, to give his welcome and opening remarks. Dr. Mono.
Well, thank you, Brian. And I could not miss this session for anything. So I've been lobbying Professor Mobit to come in for the town hall and tell us exactly the excellent things he's doing back home. And it's really my honor to have him here today and to really tell you guys the Cameroon Oncology Center has revolutionized cancer care in Cameroon. And it's a pleasure for us to get to know what they're doing so that we can train other health professionals should be able to know what they can access back home. We do have a lot of cancer patients that need help, and we are really at the point where in most of our state hospitals, we don't have the infrastructure to take care of these patients. And we don't have the expertise to also take care of these patients. Even when we have the specialists at times, we don't have the support staff that we need in order to take care of these patients. So today is a big honor. Being an oncologist myself, I have a weak spot for cancer patients. So it's always a good thing if we can have patients, doctors, nurses, paramedical, those in the public health understand exactly what we can offer to them. And I'll tell you today, we're here to learn a lot and to see exactly what this wonderful initiative that was started by Professor Paul Mobit, and he will tell us very much about what he's doing. And I look forward to this session. And Brian, oncology care is a very expensive care, that I can tell you. Oncology care in Africa, accessibility is a big problem. Even diagnosis, even thinking about it, we've grown in the field of more of tropical medicine. So we don't even get to diagnose these patients. We're biased with always thinking about the things we know or the things we're trained with. So a lot of cancer patients actually go through care without actually being diagnosed. So we hope that through the town hall, we can give more light to this with the epidemiological shift that is happening throughout the world and especially in Africa. And the Cameroon Oncology Center does not only serve Cameroon, as he's going to tell you, it serves the whole of Central Africa, which is a dead zone when it comes to a lot of innovation in healthcare. So today is going to be a very important session, and I'll have a lot of questions to myself. I may stay quiet if there are more questions coming from the audience. So over to you, Brian. And I know Professor Mobit wants us just to go straight to the point. So if we can do just a little brief introduction of him, then we pass him over the mic. That would be nice.
Yeah, thanks, thanks, Dr. Mona, for your leadership, and also thanks a lot for the kind introduction. And again, welcome to everyone who's logging in for the first time. If you do have questions, we really encourage you can use the chat feature in the Zoom to post some of those questions, and we'll try to count that. But after Professor Mobit's presentation, we're hoping to have a rich Q&A and discussion afterwards. So when you have any of those thoughts, just you can raise your hand during the Q&A so we can have a discussion on those. Without much ado, I would like to just introduce Professor Paul Mobit. He's very, very humble and doesn't want a very big introduction. So he's the president and founder of the Cameroon Oncology Center. And as you heard Dr. Mono say, Africa and including Cameroon is undergoing a very important epidemiological transition where we are seeing a double burden of disease, where shifting the burden of disease is closely shifting from infectious diseases into non-communicable diseases like cancer. So it's really a pleasure to have Professor Mobit tell us a little bit more about what the center is doing and how they're targeting this very important epidemiological shift. Professor Paul Mobit, welcome, and over to you.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Certainly a pleasure for me to be here. I can talk about cancer and Cameroon Oncology Center anywhere in the world, and that's what I've been trying to do, is to advocate for our patients, especially in Cameroon. So today I have about 68 slides, but I will be jumping most of them. In the group here, I'm sure a lot of people know about cancer, but not maybe detail what's happening in Cameroon and also the African subcontinent. This was a personal initiative. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. But what started? Why was the initiative taken in the first place? So I'll tell you a little bit, two stories to start with. How the Cameroon Oncology Center came into existence. I had finished my studies at the Institute of Cancer Research in London, which is part of the Royal Marsden Hospital. For those who are familiar with cancer, in the field of cancer, you have to know about Royal Marsden Hospital. You have to know about Institute of Cancer Research. This is, I think, MD Anderson is probably number one. Number two, you have Royal Marsden Hospital / Institute of Cancer Research. Then you have Memorial Sloan Kettering. So these are the top 3 cancer centers or programs in the world. So when I finished from there, I needed to move out of the UK. And so the option was for me to go to Canada, and go to Harvard, or go to France. So I chose to go to Canada, which most of my friends at the time thought I had made the worst decision in life to go to this not so known cancer center in Canada called the Tom Baker Cancer Center in Calgary, Canada. So I went there, and by the time that I got there, that was 1997, March of 1997. They had a small cancer center with a cobalt-60 teletherapy unit for those who are familiar with radiation therapy. So this was, Alberta at the time had a population of about 3 million people, and they had 2 cancer centers. One was in Edmonton, the other one was in Calgary. And the one in Calgary was very, 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 very small. But from 1997, when I got there, until 2003, when I left, we went from a single unit, linear accelerator, to 11 units. And so I was in the middle. I had to do all the commission and put most of the processes that they were still using up to about a few years ago in place. So you go, and in fact, most of the patients at the time were either going to British Columbia or to Toronto for treatment. So you can imagine it was very expensive for the government. But the provincial government took an initiative to make cancer care local. And I was very, very impressed with that, the way they did it and how they pour money into it. And so the question was, why do we Cameroonians or Africans, why are we left behind? Can we do something like that? And so when I moved to Detroit, to a Wayne State University / Detroit Medical Center, I began to get a lot of Cameroonians who were coming for care. So they would call me, I would arrange for their cancer treatment. Then it was very expensive. They would come, they end up paying $35,000, $40,000, $50,000 for cancer care. But you can imagine these were very, very few people that could afford that. I said, but then we have to do something for our people. There's no need coming here and doing all of this great work and treating Americans or Canadians, yet our people are suffering from this. So I took the decision at the time in 2003-04 to establish an independent cancer center in Cameroon. And so that's where so it is a very, very long process, as you can see from about 2004 to today is about 20 years. So it's a long process. So it wasn't something I just wake up and do this thing. So I had to plan it. I had to know about the challenges and how I was going to overcome any of those challenges. There are more than 15, 20 significant challenges when it comes to radiation therapy in Cameroon or in sub-Saharan Africa. So you have to develop a plan to overcome them, or else you'll not be able to treat a single patient. Because there are centers in Africa today that have a linear accelerator that's not functioning for the past 6-7 years. So owning a linear accelerator to treat cancer patient and actually using that to treat a cancer patient are 2 different things. So anyway, that was some introduction. So today we are really, see, why is it not moving? Okay, see. So we'll really talk a little bit about cancer statistics. I look at some of the presentation that was done by Dr. Former, and he did cover that for Sub-Saharan Africa. And we'll look at challenges in implementing radiation therapy in Sub-Saharan Africa. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Cameroon Oncology Project. So what is the Cameroon Oncology Project? I'll explain that a little bit more.
Okay. Professor Mobit, you're not sharing your screen yet, so we can't see your screen yet.
Oh, you cannot see my screen?
Yeah.
I thought I'm sharing.
Yes.
Are you seeing now?
Perfect.
Okay, let me see. What
Yes.
is it? Is it available now? Okay.
Yes, we can see the
Sorry.
first screen.
Okay, let me see. I hope, yeah, if you don't see that, just let me know. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about telemedicine. How do we go about implementing a radiation therapy in Cameroon, for instance, where you don't have a lot of the professional trained? And so the idea of telemedicine became very, very important. And then as we are on the ground, we start seeing tumors that are very, very large that you typically will not see in the US here. And how do we treat those type of tumors? And so we got into what they call specialty fractionation radiation therapy, which we've treated about maybe 30 patients on this. And I've actually gone to the IEE to do some teaching there with some colleagues on how to implement that in developing country. Then we talk about milestones achieved, and then cancer in picture. It's not pretty. Okay, for those of us, well, not those of us, for those who don't know about cancer, what is cancer? So I explained to maybe a first grader that we learn about cells, like a basic unit of the human body cells. So what is cancer? Again, I'm going to restrict my talk to solid tumors. So cancer is just regular cells, but these cells somehow just grow and divide. And when they grow and divide, they invade other organs and they form solid lumps, and then they begin to break down and invade other organs near and far away. So that's really essentially what is cancer in terms of solid tumor. And so, so let me quickly jump to statistics. So in 2020, 2020, they were estimated about what 800,000 Africans, sub-Saharan Africa, being diagnosed with cancer or that will have cancer. So this number is will reach something like 1.2 million in 2030. So today is probably about 900,000. Again, the numbers are estimate because the statistics is very poor. We don't know. So the key thing here is that we have, let's say in this particular figure that was done for 2018, they'll have 750,000 cases and 506 deaths. So that's a very significant number, right? Okay, and then this is also just giving you some idea. So for men, so you see, for prostate, they do better because for prostate, you probably can do surgery. So this is a little bit more effective, but you can see incidence and mortality. So in some cases, they're almost equal. So the number that are diagnosed and the number that die are almost equal in some cases, just prostate that you see here. Cervix, I would say to me, you can see the number that die is quite significant. The same thing for breast, so the number is significant. So I'm going to, again, restrict this talk mainly to radiation therapy. Not that medical oncology is not important or surgery is not important, but this is the key thing that we need in sub-Saharan Africa to combat cancer and the other things which include the medical oncology and surgery. But radiation therapy is a key component of cancer treatment. So essentially, if you have cancer, you have the three important modes of treatment. You have a surgery, you have chemotherapy, and you have radiation therapy. So it is estimated that 60 to 65% of cancer patients need radiation therapy. So in a context, let's say in Africa or in Cameroon, where you have patients are diagnosed at advanced stage, this number should go up more than 60 to 65%. I'm thinking 65 to 70% of them will need radiation therapy in some form, either in a palliative setting or in a curative setting. Okay, so let me just here. So in order to set up a basic unit to do radiation therapy that key things that you need. So you need a CT, what they call a CT simulator. You need a linear accelerator. You need a radiation treatment planning system. You need brachytherapy and all of these. And this costs millions of dollars. So this costs, I mean, a linear accelerator, as I will show in the later slides, costs anywhere from 2.5 million to $5 million. And then it costs another 10% to maintain per year. So you can see these are significant costs. Okay, a CT, you can get a CT sim for $250,000. But once you add the simulation software and all the things that you need for radiation therapy, you can go up to $1 million. And they have the treatment plans. So these are very, very expensive pieces of equipment to have and to run. So just having them is not good enough. You have to have them run. So in addition, so some centers, talking to some centers in Ethiopia, in some other African country, they go and buy a linear accelerator and they think, oh, we are ready to do the radiation therapy. No, they're not ready. There are other things that you need in order to implement a radiation therapy program. So it's not just a big equipment. You need equipment that costs anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000, and this sometimes is not budgeted, right? So you have a linear accelerator that's budgeted. They don't know you need the other things. So they buy a linear accelerator, install, they're unable to use because this was not taken into account. Okay, so then in addition to actually develop a good program, whether you're in the US or in Africa, you need a way to be able to see whether the cancer has metastasized or not. And PET or SPECT is a good avenue for doing that. And actually, I will show further that in Cameroon, we don't have that. Actually, in sub-Saharan Africa, excluding South Africa, it's only Kenya and Nigeria that has a single PET scanner, which is very important for cancer care. I know Ghana is probably going to get one very soon. And I will talk about our intention to get some of this equipment as we move along. Again, I'm not going to go into much detail about this. So the key thing that I want to talk about is radiation therapy. That's what I want to talk about. So radiation therapy has evolved from when X-ray and radioactivity was developed up to now. So pre-1970, so when you have cancer, what they did was they zapped the entire surface with radiation. So if you have cancer in your head region here, the entire face or the entire head would be given radiation. So when you do that, what happened is that you irradiate a lot of normal tissue, and therefore the patients did very, very poorly. And with that, it means that you cannot also give curative doses. So there has been, over the past 50, 60 years, a move towards confining the radiation to irradiating just the tumor and the lymph nodes that might be affected, and reducing radiation that goes to the normal tissues that do not have cancer. So that is the key. So if you have your radiation program where you're just zapping the patient with radiation and not minding about the normal tissue, then the patient is going to get serious side effects and they'll end up not finishing their treatment, or you can only give doses that are not curative. And I will demonstrate a little bit later that for service, for instance, if you cannot give radiation dose that goes somewhere to about 80, 85 gray, that tumor will just simply look at you, will not do anything, because the dose, if you give 50 grays or 40 gray, the tumor is not, you are not going to be able to cure that patient. The cancer will simply just continue to grow. So in the 1980s, they started developing technique to conform the radiation up to now, where we are using IMRT to actually shape the radiation to only target the tumor itself. And so Cameroon Oncology Center, so when you look at what's happening, let's say at l'Hôpital General, they are actually still stuck in this regime here. in the 1970 regime. They have not moved past this, which is kind of unfortunate, but this is where we are, not just Cameroon, but most of the other African countries are kind of stuck here. And then the few that have done some work, I would say Ghana and maybe Ivory Coast, where they have a linear accelerator, they got stuck here. Is now Kenya. Again, I'm excluding South Africa because they are far more advanced. South Africa, apart from that, so they got stuck in this regime. They're still not yet in this regime. And this is where you can give very high doses and the control rate is much better. I just want to give you just a quick think about, let's say, cervical cancer. We see a lot of them at Cameroon Oncology Center in Cameroon. So if I do the old regime, you can see in this picture here, you see this is the tumor that we are trying to treat here in red. This is the rectum. And the rectum, the tolerant dose of the rectum is very low. So with the 2D technique, which is the technique used in 1970, you are irradiating the entire pelvis to 40 Gray. So the patient will have a lot of issues, right? And so you're not able to give up to 80 Gray. When you go to 3D, yes, you are able to confirm the radiation a bit, but still yet, the cervix, sorry, not the cervix, the rectum is still getting a very large dose. And therefore, again, you are limited with the radiation dose that you can give. You can see here, this is the IMRT, or what they call VMAT, which is actually, this is one of our patients. You can see here, we're actually confirmed, you can see the rectum essentially spared. And you are able to give radiation just to the tumor. I mean, the surface of the rectum is still irradiated, but it can recover. But when you zap the entire rectum, then you're unable to really give curative dose because the side effects will be so high, the patient will be bleeding to treatment, and then you have to end at 40, and this will not get you anywhere. Again, this is another example of the head and neck tumor. Again, for head and neck, I'm talking about nasopharynx, pharynx, esophagus. All of these, the spinal cord dose limit is about 45 Gray. You can see here. So with your IMRT, you can give a curative dose about 70. Anything above 45, you are just claiming is not going to be able to cure this patient. Even if you do surgery, the dose is just too limited to be able to give curative doses. So this is actually what we have at Cameroon Oncology Center. So we are treating to RTOG standard and protocol standard. So we are able to achieve this in Cameroon, and a lot of patients benefit from this treatment regime. Okay, let me go back to the issue of what do we have in Cameroon and what do we have in Africa. So this was something that was published by the IAEA. So they talk about mega voltage. So this is the machine that is used to treat cancer. So the external radiation therapy machine. So you can see in Algeria, they actually have 54. Again, this is the northern, the northern African states. They're doing quite well. Egypt has 120 for about 135 million. Tunisia, also bad. So you come now to Benin. Benin has 0. Cote d'Ivoire, they have 2 for about 29, 30 million people. So you can see we are just, it's not, it's very limited. You go to Ghana. Ghana has 5, so they're doing better. And again, it's still very limited. So these are the number that they need. So Ghana, they have 5, they need 42. Cote d'Ivoire, this was in 2018 years. But the numbers actually is more than 20. So Cote d'Ivoire has 2, they need 26. Nigeria, our neighbor, they have 10 machines. They need 211. And imagine that each of these machines costs, let's say, $3 million. You can imagine how much it's going to cost for Nigeria to equip. So we literally. So look at Cameroon. So this is Cameroon at the bottom here. again, they say we are 23 million people. We are probably about 29 to 30 million Cameroonians. We have one. So you can see there's really a hope. So actually, when you look at even the state of Louisiana, which is a small state in the United States, they have more mega voltage machines dedicated to treating dogs and cats than 10 African countries combined, right? So a single state in the United States have more machines dedicated to treating dogs and cats than we have in 10 African countries combined. So that is a huge, so we talk about infectious disease. Cancer is extremely neglected and nobody wants to touch it. Dr. Former, so I mean, you are still laughing, but that is the truth. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the cost. This is, again, this is not my data. This is data published by the IAEA, right? So it's not my data. And this data was published in 2015. So what does it say? It says a linear accelerator, which you need in order to implement high quality radiation therapy. The cost is, so this is high income country, let's say low to medium income, where Cameroon would be likely classified. So it costs you about $2 million to buy. Today, it's more than 2 million. Today is somewhere 2.5. Then if you add the cone beam CT, you add the CT, so you can see this is a significant cost to buy. The other important thing that I want us to note is the annual maintenance cost, right? So when you buy a linear accelerator for what is 2.5, the standard, and I have done that here in the US because I've negotiated these contracts on behalf of my hospital, right? You have to pay 10%. So something that you buy for 2 million, they expect every year for you to pay 10%, which would be what? 200,000. So for the newer machine, you are talking 250,000. So this is very expensive. So sometimes people in Cameroon, oh, Cameroon Oncology Center is very expensive. I say, well, every single patient that we treat at Cameroon Oncology Center, every single patient, $1,000 from that patient should be devoted just to the maintenance costs. So this is significant. So you can see that in order to prepare to have a good oncology center, you need this, and these are the costs. So that's why you see the international community, they are running away from cancer. They can go to HIV and these, but cancer care, there has been absolutely no movement in terms of bringing cancer care to the poor Africans. And the Africans themselves are not helping themselves. The thing that they should do to help, they will not do it. And so we are in the same state. It's not just, we talk about, it's not just Cameroon. So this one is not general. I'm not talking about Cameroon, I'm talking about Africa in general. Even Nigeria that's next door, it's not just now that they're making, to me, mini progress, petit progress. Nothing that's going to change the life of Nigerians in any significant way. So why is the African radiotherapy challenge? So you have 23 countries that do not have access to radiation therapy. So you live in one of these 23 countries and you have cancer, forget about radiation therapy. You have chemotherapy. So you also have lack of specialists. And specialists, not just doctors, you need the technicians, you need the physicists, you need the pathologists, you need all of these. And so therefore, this is a real issue. And then building a single center will cost you $8 to $25 million. The center that was built in Ivory Coast, the cost was $13 billion at the time in 2012 and 2015, right? The one that was built in Ghana, the private center that was built in Ghana, I consulted on the project, so I know, because it was owned by the Swedish part of the Swedish government, with some local investor. That one cost about $9 million. So it's not chicken on chicken feed in a way. And then you have the maintenance cost. Then you have for chemotherapy drugs, are much more expensive. And then you might have all of these. Without stable power, your machine is ruined. So at Cameroon Oncology Center, we operate power. Our power is 24 hours. So when a neo does not supply us power, we have the generator kick in. We have a UPS, and sometimes we use the generator. We use 25 liters an hour. So you can imagine if a neo doesn't supply us power for 12 hours, how much it costs to maintain the center. If you don't do that, all your boards will be damaged. And we tried to cut power and try and do this. We will spend more on the linear accelerator to buy the parts. So we just decided it was best to have power. If a neo does not supply us power, we use our generator, which means even the generator that was supposed to be standby generator, you're now using it almost to provide power full time on a daily basis. Sometimes you might go a week where you don't have power for 2 days. Okay, I'm not going to go through this again. I'm just going to. So let me just summarize this again. So what was the goal of the Cameroon Oncology Center? The goal of the Cameroon Oncology project, which is part of the Cameroon Oncology Center is part of that project, was to build, equip, and operate a modern cancer center in Cameroon that meets all international standards, right? We're not going to shortchange the patient. So it must meet, that was a very, very important requirement for me. It must meet that in terms of quality and what we do, so that somebody who, let's say, came from the US or from Ghana or wherever, came to our center and was to practice, they will not see any difference between what we do and what they were doing here in the United States. So the secondary aim was, again, I think the focus was on quality and also the price. So my target price was that a secondary school teacher who went to an Hight or ENS should be able to afford care. We're not going to treat that everybody will be able to be treated because it was not possible. So the target was that we should be in a place where a secondary school teacher in Cameroon who works for the government should be able to afford care. So that was the goal, and should be able to receive treatment that is very, that is superior. So, and then we also, at the same time, we develop a revenue stream where patients were charged based on their ability to pay. So, and that's what we actually have today. Not if you come with diagnosis with prostate cancer, you do not pay the same price for prostate cancer as somebody else. We look through your this thing, the bill is the same, but what you end up paying depends on your ability to pay. So we are the first, in fact, in Sub-Saharan Africa, to actually implement a system like that, and it's working reasonably well. Okay. Again, I just jump over this. I mean, this is what some of the health economics here might know, that in Cameroon, we spend $54 per person for healthcare. Canada is $5,000. In the United States, $11,000. And then we look at normalized cancer expenditure in Cameroon, the total expenditure. This is estimated. It might be off. I just did some rough calculation. Is 5 million. In the US is 200 billion. So if you assess normalized to 30 million Cameroonians and 30 million Americans. Again, this data, I don't want this data come from the WHO. And this is about how many cases of cancer we have in Cameroon. We have, they say 20,000. I mean, most data, I've talked to Professor Ndom and some of the people that are concerned in Cameroon, they'll tell you that it's more like 30,000. They say 20,000, 13,000 there. No, it's much more than that. So again, so a little bit about the Cameroon Oncology Center and what we have. So this is the center. It's actually now, we've added a level on this building. So we have living quarters for some of our expatriate staff. They live on top of the building. So we have the ground floor. I think in French, they call it R+2. So we actually have R+3 because we have living quarters up here, which is what it was there. So our experts, foreign experts live on top accommodation on top of the building. So we have a 21 years for those in radiation therapy. Our IX machine, which has cone beam, is in the process of being installed. So we hopefully by September, November, we should be having the second linear accelerator and operating. Okay, we have a Philips big ball CT, which is equipped like any Philips machine, Philips CT simulator here. And then just to say that the facility was self-funded because no bank wanted to take the risk of funding a Cameroon Oncology Center. So these are some of the things. So this is a center you can see from here. There's a pharmacy, there's a big ball city with a flat tabletop. So again, just going very briefly, and let me see. We have 44 minutes, my goodness. Okay, I think I'm talking too much. So anyway, we have about 10 infusion chairs for chemotherapy. We have a biomarker, some basic laboratory services with biomarker, one single operating room. Okay, so this is, so again, the most important thing to recognize here is that in the second phase, we have, which we started the second phase. Right now, our spec CT, we certainly by December, our spec CT will be up and running. And we hope that by 2026, that we'll have a PEG CT as part of that. So we'll be, hopefully we'll be able to diagnose, because that's still a challenge for us. In terms of staff, again, I really cannot emphasize the importance of the staff that is based here in the United States, and also the undergrad. So it's a combination, it's a team. So we have Professor Folefak, I hope he's online, and Professor Walid. They are leading the charge from the United States. And then in Cameroon, actually, our gynecologist has left. He's gone to Poland, so we don't have these. We have to rely, but every other person is the same. We have 4 physician generalists, 1 radiologist remote. We have 2 researchers. Wow, I can't even pronounce that word. So we have a total of about 72 staff. So we are online. Our process is well described. If you want to sell this paper online, you will see our full process. How do we go about consulting our patient? Introduction to a hybrid tele-oncology program in a low-resource city in Sub-Saharan Africa. So this is a paper. So for those who are academically inclined, you can look at this paper. It will describe the whole process of what we do and how the patient flew and stuff like that. Again, I'm not going to define telemedicine for this audience. I'll just keep on. But again, this is generally our flow. So the patient visits the hospital, there's clinical evaluation by the oncologist on site, and they get to make the first decisions. I mean, sometimes they make the decision, the patient is, maybe just as an example, the patient is CT scan, the data come to us for treatment plan, we discover that, oh, the patient that thought that they think they not have metastasis now have metastasis in the lung. So we have to start a new protocol for treatment rather than go with radiation therapy. So there are a lot of things that sometimes will change based on what we see when the patient comes to us. So I'm not going to I'm not going to focus on this. The other thing that I did mention, which is important for the audience, is that in order to enroll patients in RTOJO protocol in the United States, radiation, there is a test that you must do. And Cameroon Oncology Center passed that test in 2019, right? So the patient, so a head and neck patient treated at Cameroon Oncology Center, we treat to US protocol standards. So we do not, the patient is treated, you can see here, the function that, I mean, the last sentence, that your institution would have certified the program component of the credential. So in order to participate in RTOJO program, you have to be credentialed to do that. So we meet that, right? So we can actually, if we can proceed to be a registered center for participating in US protocols. So we are just one in all of West Africa. There are 2 centers in South Africa. So what I'm saying is that it wasn't just a question of going to do what I would call in carpentry cut and nail. You cut a plank and you nail. No, we cut the plank, machine it, make sure that it fits properly. So that's what we are doing. We are not, the patient get, in fact, some patients, for me, being in this, some patients get better care when it comes to radiation therapy in Cameroon than they do in the United States, in some centers in the United States. That's what I can guarantee you that. So in order to do this, we have to find a way to do this fast. So we have also recently implemented AI in our program. I will continue to work with some of the US companies to bring more. So now we've implemented AI for contouring. So radiation therapy, as I indicated before, when you have a tumor to treat, but then you have risk organs that are surrounding the tumor. In this particular case, this is a head and neck tumor. So you have the parotid gland here, the spinal cord here, the oral cavity. There are certain dose restrictions that you must meet when you plan a patient in the United States. They say these cannot exceed these. Yes, sometimes you have to treat the tumor, but all of these. So these, the AI help us to actually do what? To make sure that the contouring is consistent also with the US country. But actually, Professor Walid, whom I don't know whether he's online, he is actually, some of those atlases were developed by him. He is a great radiation oncologist, former chairman and program director for radiation oncology. So we are talking about the best. We're talking about Professor Folefa, who is also a fellowship program director in Ohio. So these are some of the things that you can see. This is a tumor here, but sometimes you have to treat the nodes, the lymphatics. And you can see here, you can see, in fact, this is one of our patients. You can see it right here. The stomach is essentially spare of high dose, but here the cervix is getting a very large dose. So these are some of the things that we really do in Cameroon. So again, this is a very busy. What I'm trying to say is that there are certain standards that you have to meet in order for the patient to treat the patient here in the US, really generally. So there are certain dose restrictions based on what dose you are giving. And this is what we use at Cameroon Oncology Center to say whether a plan is acceptable or not acceptable. So I just want to touch on this thing, and then I'll probably quickly end, so maybe we can go to some questions and answer. But in Cameroon, they tell me, oh, Cameroon Oncology Center is expensive. So what we did was I was in Ghana myself. So I said, how much does a prostate cancer patient cost in Ivory Coast, which the government of Ivory Coast spent 13 billion CFA to build. How much does it cost? A prostate patient cost about 3,600 US dollars. In Ghana, for the public center, it costs about 2,000. Ghana private center costs 9,000. In Senegal, the public center is about $273. Senegal private center is this Cameroon Oncology Center. Remember, we are also not using the basic thing that they are using. We are using the advanced IMRT because they do not have this in Ghana. So in fact, this patient that we treat here for 300, this is a patient that in the United States, the cost will be more than $50,000. We're using the same equipment, we're using the same professionals to develop the plan. So the patient is only paying somewhere in the region of 5 to 10% of the actual cost of the service. The way you have service. I just want to. So what have been, are there challenges? Yes, there are challenges. So the patient's ability to pay for services, that's a challenge. So the patient comes with breast cancer, you say, okay, it's going to cost you maybe $1,000. I don't have $1,000. Let me go and talk to the family. They come back after 6 months. Now, the cancer has left the breast now in the lung. So we've had to work with a way, how do we see this patient that is really want to work, to develop a payment plan and help these patients so that they get care rather than waiting. And you come, some of them, oh, I don't want chemotherapy. Or some patient is very, very difficult. So we've actually recruited now a psychologist who works with our patient. So right now at the center, we have a psychologist. He consults every morning. And he sees some of the patients, so they have to have a referral to see the physician. The other thing is that the accommodation. The patient has to be there for 6 to 9 weeks of treatment. Where do they stay in Bikoko? And some of the neighbors, our neighbors, are not charging significant amount of money to hold some of those patients. So it is a huge issue because it's not a treatment, a day's treatment. It's a treatment that goes on for 9 weeks if it's curative. Yeah. The other thing that is sad for me is that some of our physicians in Cameroon, even though they know what we do, prefer to refer the patients to India, or rather than sending some of those patients to us that could be treated. And we have what is actually happening now. Some patients go to India and then come back to us. We have at least 3 or 4 patients at this present time that are undergoing treatment with us that have been to India and come back. I'm not saying that patients have a choice to go wherever they can get care, where they are also comfortable. But I think that the Indian factor in healthcare in Africa is a significant issue that the governments in Africa have to see how to deal with them. I was in Cameroon recently. I talked to the general manager of Polyclinic Balajo, and he's a surgeon. He said to me he's not been able to do this because everybody that can there, the Indian hospital have set up shops everywhere in Cameroon, and these patients have been carted to India, even for basic things that could be done in Cameroon. And I was shocked coming from Polyclinic Balajo. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing it. But he's a very senior guy who's well-trained, and yet he says sometimes they just have to look at places. So this is this thing. I talk to radiation oncologists in Nigeria. In Nigeria, if you refer a patient to India for the radiation oncology, he makes about $1,000, right? By referring those patients to those hospitals. So those hospitals have come to our side to say, no, we're not interested in partnership. We're not interested in selling. So these are some of the issues that you will never hear discussed. But I'm here, I have no affiliation with any of them. I'm just saying this here openly. Maybe there are some people on the call or on the Zoom meeting that might be able to help. But Africa is slowly losing the health. The people that can afford care are going out. And while we are living with people that cannot afford care, and a lot of money is going out. I mean, billions and billions of dollars leaving Africa to India for health care, which is an issue. And cancer is one of the things that people go out for. What's my time now? Oh, it's 12:56. Okay. I think the other thing that I just want to mention here is that what is by true weakness of thought, somebody came into our center and took our control console for the linear accelerator. So they literally vandalized the linear accelerator, right? And they had the gendarmes and this, they came to investigate, but till today we have nothing, right? If not that we had bought a second linear accelerator with the control, we would have been down for months. Because they had of the linear, the heart of anything is a control unit. And they took that away with associated computers. But luckily for us, we had a standby one which we installed and we're up and running within 2 days. But you can just imagine somebody come to the center, not looking for everything, you're looking for the linear accelerator control part. That kind of tells that there is some issues. We wrote to the ministry, we never got a response. The only response wrote to the presidency, and they were able to send some investigators to look into it. But this is where we are. I just want to come on histopathology, that remains our greatest issue in Cameroon. This was a paper that we wanted to publish in 2022. We had a file with the editors, and we had to abandon it. Because if you look at this statement here, in the entire cohort of 592 breast cancer patients seen at Cameroon Oncology Center over a 3 period, only 2.5% of the patients had expected complete pathology report necessary for oncology to make an appropriate decisions. Yet people are trying to fight Cameroon Oncology. This is where they should direct the fight, right? So we've been in the process of trying to do what? To see, can we implement a telepathology program? And this is one of projects that we'll have to do. But when you talk to people, there's no issue, we are all right. But can you imagine in Cameroon, Uganda, all of this country do better than Cameroon. Cameroon is at the bottom when you start looking at this criteria. It's not the fault of Cameroon oncologists. I hope there are some oncologists in Cameroon that are listening to us. Because sometimes people blame me for things that I have nothing to do with. These are real issues that the healthcare should be tackling as a healthcare organization. So in the end, we had to publish the result of different, because the editor, the first editor said there's no way he's going to publish it because it's make-up data. So this is something that I have been involved with the IAEA, which involves treating tumors that have grown out of the body, large, extensive tumor. So we're actually treating this at Cameroon Oncology Center. So actually, I think they are trying to get a center in Ghana going. But when I went unfortunately, when I went to the IAEA to teach this program together with Professor Walid, the people from Ghana were not even given a visa. Yet we had people from India, from South America, but there was no African represented. But luckily, I was the guy doing it. So we have it in Cameroon. This is something we've implemented. We've treated a lot of patients on this protocol. So you can see this is the patient. This is a patient sarcoma. It's actually grown out of it's much bigger than this. You can see after treatment and surgery, you can see the thing has gone down. But this patient died, I think, a year later, because these tumors sometimes are very aggressive. They reoccur. Doesn't matter. So this is another patient. Again, we treated with this technique called especially fractional radiation therapy. And you can see as we were able to actually get a guy good. But unfortunately for us, we also lost the patient. But once he went to Yaoundé, somebody tried to dress the wound and puncture everything, and the patient bleed to death. Okay. So what is my time now? Okay, it's exactly 1 o'clock. So what are some of the milestones we've achieved? I want to end with that. So we've consulted over 3,100 patients. About 1,000 of these have been treated on the linear accelerator. High quality. Even when we do palliative care, it's not the type of palliative, it's like a patient that's bleeding. Let's say a cervical cancer patient that has spread but is bleeding. The type of doses that we do and the way we plan it. We actually have 2 papers on the technique that we are using, right? Case report, and you can see the response. So it's not just doing radiation therapy. We are developing techniques at Cameroon Oncology Center that I hope eventually will be used to Africa. Because I can tell you, Dr. Former, what we have seen in Cameroon compared to, let's say, to here, the evolution of disease in Cameroon of cancer is different from here. This is what we are noticing. And it seems to me that the tumors are very aggressive. The most important thing is, can we start doing the biology of these diseases to be well informed of what's really going on and maybe comparing them with what happened in the US. But I can tell you, if you look at some of our cervical cancer cases, you look at the tumor volume, it's unbelievable. Even here in Mississippi, where I'm located, we are yet to see something as aggressive or as big as this. What is this? So, as I said, we've implemented a special fractionated radiation therapy, which is what I was telling you in Cameroon. We've implemented AI. We have about 85 sessions of chemotherapy monthly. What else? We've published about 13 scientific papers from Cameroon, from work done at Cameroon Oncology Center. So we are not just about treating patients. So we consider ourselves an academic center. So we have a full-time researcher, and we are continuing to recruit more. We are trying to partner with universities in Cameroon, even other researchers in Cameroon, to see what we can do. I'm going to just jump now to some pictures. So this is not pretty, but I thought it would be important to just share. So these are terrible. Cancer is not, I mean, we have really some of them terrible. So I want to emphasize, really want to emphasize that even though I'm the one that put my neck out, me and my family that put my neck out, this is a team effort. I really cannot overemphasize that. I did not do this alone. Professor Walid was the first person on board. I don't know whether he's online. I hope he's online to maybe say a word. Professor Folefak, and then the team in Cameroon, which has been excellent. So
I'm here online, Paul. I'm here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yes, Professor Wale, that's him talking. He's been to Cameroon. He's lectured there. He's doing a lot of mentorship. He's even spent his own money, not just contributing his mental wealth. He's contributing financially to help us with the second linear accelerator that we are trying to put in. So he's contributed. He's Egyptian, originally from Egypt, but he has invested money at Cameroon Oncology on his time and continues to do that on a daily basis. So we appreciate what you've done, Professor Wali.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So anyway, let me see what I can just conclude is by again, here, I really want also to mention my family. In fact, I think when I'm gone, it's only my wife that will be able to tell my story. Because in order to treat most of this, we are treating about 35 patients. I am the one doing most of the plan with Professor Walid. Now we are moving everything to Cameroon, but it's still going to be because it's not just straightforward radiotherapy. There's some particularity that we, the two of us, we know how to do it in a way because it's been 5 years. I think I also want to emphasize that we've just started a school, which will start operations in October. So I will be able to share this with the group, whoever wants, where we are going to be training radiation therapy, medical physicists, and our collaboration with the University of Nigeria, Enugu. Our first resident will go out there in October as well. And we are hoping that residents from Yaoundé University will start with us in October. So these are some of our partnerships we have. Just want to show, and we won the African Excellence Award for Oncology Service in Cameroon. So this is some of our, this is the University of Kentucky, where we've received a residence from there. And this one is the, this University of Nigeria, Enugu. Okay, that's good. I also want to thank, I think she's on here, Jennifer Dent. Are you online, Jennifer? Can you just say hi? She's the president of Venture for Global Health. She's been very, very useful to us, helping us with securing chemotherapy drugs, immunotherapy, targeted drugs from around the world at a price that Cameroon cancer patients can afford. I'm sorry it took a little bit longer, but I'm only 6 minutes. I'm only 6 minutes over time. So I'm open now to questions and answers and discussion. Professor Folefak, are you online? Okay, Professor Walid, do you mind to say a few words? Please, let me give a chance for Professor Walid to say something. He has been a great leader for us, and we really appreciate it. There's really no way I can thank him. Professor Walid, do you want to say something?
Thank you, Paul, and thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you guys. It was a great pleasure to help the Cameroonian people in their mission against cancer. I have been knowing Paul for many years, more than 14 years now. And I would rather wait until if you guys have any questions for us, for Paul or myself, I'm happy to answer them all. Just I would like to say one thing only about having the Cameroonian people traveling to India. I personally serve as an expert for the International Atomic Agency program that serve all the nations. And I went to India a couple of times to do like a quality check on most of their hospitals, the cancer oncology program for radiation therapy in 7 territories there. And I'm very familiar with their quality of care, especially for the overseas patient who come for what we call it touristic oncology care. I can confidently say that the care that we provide to the Cameroonian within our COC program is much higher care quality, keeping also in mind the convenience for the patient and the provider and the retaining your own dollar within the country. and the comfort that the patient feels when he's supported by the family rather than traveling by himself or herself overseas for 7 to 8 weeks minimum, plus traveling cost and exhaustion during the travel. And thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Yes, Professor Wale, let me just add to that. Some patients actually go there, and some of them die there. And sometimes they have to bury them. Therefore, us as Africans, we want to be buried where we are. That's why people die here. They still carry them to Cameroon. So some patients go there. Some patients will come to us while they're arranging the visa, and they leave and go. Sometimes when once they return, they come to pay. Sometimes they pay us once they get, because they just use us to get a visa. But once they go there and also see the quality of care and what we do at Cameroon Oncology, they are forced by their own conscience to then pay us. We have several cases like that.
Of course. And we have so many sad stories that I have seen even in the United States and in Egypt, when countries from Africa, the people from Africa come to Egypt to get treated in Egypt, which is much cheaper than the US. I have seen people selling their land and their houses and golds and becoming broke for just a hope to treat their mother or their wives or for their kids. And the patient is already stage 4, and they cannot add anything to them other than just wasting all the resources, and the patient will die overseas. I have seen many sad stories.
Yeah, but if you say that in Cameroon, people think that you are this. So we just any patient that comes we treat. If you want to go to India, you're free. If you come to us and say you're about India, we now say no, we'll prepare your documents for you to go to India. Whoever you want to do, if you want, we can help you secure even a place in India. But I think that the patient should have the choice to go wherever they think they can get care, because cancer, sometimes, irrespective of where you go, the case is a stage 4 cancer, is a stage 4 cancer, whether you're in Cameroon here. Oh, and so, yeah. Okay, Dr. Former, please, you have the floor for questions and discussions and whatever. I'm sorry again.
No, thanks a lot. I think thanks a lot, Professor Mobit, and also thanks and welcome, Professor Walid as well. And thanks a lot for this great vision that you've had for oncology care in Cameroon. I think you've painted a very sobering picture of the challenges that countries like Cameroon face in delivering modern cancer treatment to its population. I think you highlighted a wide array of challenges, from just the infrastructural challenges, getting and maintaining the equipment, having even trained personnel. From the cost that you highlighted, which scales to millions, it kind of makes sense why there is such a deficit of radiation therapy centers across the African continent. So it's great to hear about the experience and the experience of the Cameroon Oncology Center and some of the challenges that you've witnessed, and how other African countries can learn from your experience as well. I just so thanks a lot for that very comprehensive presentation, and very fascinating as well. I think we've been joined by some of my other co-moderators. I do see Dr. Jean-Claude Kate as well, and Elvis Ndansi as well. I just want to give him a chance to say a few words. Dr. Kate.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you so much. Really, I want to say a big thank you to Professor Mobit for sticking out your neck, as you said it in your presentation, to provide this very important care in Cameroon. And also a big thank you to Professor Walid for all you guys are doing. And we could actually see from some of your pictures that cancer, as we know it, it's such a debilitating disease. And just the diagnosis alone weighs a lot on our patients and on their families as well. And the fact that you are able, through the Cameroon Oncology Center, to provide care, to limit travel, I think goes a big way to save costs for cancer patients. But not only that, I was also glad to see, I don't know I should say glad, but you rightly mentioned some of the challenges, and two things actually stood out for me. Histopathology, I think it's a big thing. I think Mono would usually say no tissue, no issue. And
Yes.
the other thing was training and staff. And so, well, I'm sure many people would have questions, but I think those are things that we should be thinking about going forward, for not only for the Cameroon Oncology Center, but other centers like this. Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay, maybe I should just make a quick comment, that the other thing that we also wanted to do, which I did not share, is about how is the cancer in Cameroon distributed. So my team in Cameroon just concluded a week ago screening in all 10 regions of Cameroon. So we have screened for cervix, prostate, breast in all 10 regions of Cameroon. We have screened in the past 5 years over 5,000 individuals, Cameroonians, at no cost to the individuals, with no help from the government. So we receive no money from anywhere. This is money that the Cameroon Oncology Center is generating, that we are using part of it to do the screening. That's why I remain in the United States, because if I go back to Cameroon Oncology Center will falter. So I am still subsidizing with my salary here in the US Cameroon Oncology Center. But the thing that, to me, that stood out from the screening, which I like to share here, is that you look at cervical cancer, it's very, very high, and it's going to continue to high. A country like Rwanda took a positive nose, and they are now vaccinating. HPV vaccination is full steam in Rwanda. In Cameroon, the data we collected, 80% of Cameroonians, including close to 80% of college-educated people, do not know what HPV is.
That's sad.
It is sad. Yet, again, I say people are trying to blame Cameroon Oncology Center for, I mean, these are real issues that I think that we should be focused on. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. Your comments there as well. So thanks a lot. I just want to invite the audience. If you do have questions, I do see some in the chat already. But if you do have questions, please just raise your hand and just voice them out. I think that he has really. I think Professor Mobit has really stimulated us in a unique way. So let's bring our heads together and see what can be done to really enhance to really solve this fundamental crisis that we have. And I really Professor Mobit, I just want to try to see if I can kick us off. You shared one of some staggering statistics for the African region and the availability of radiation therapy there as well. And I was kind of beginning to wonder. I do know that cost is an issue, and the lack of trained personnel appears to be an issue. But have you thought about some innovative kind of solutions that you think can dramatically expand access to building this kind of comprehensive cancer centers in Africa, in the African continent, in a way that's equitable and in a way that's really sustainable? So just wondering around some innovative and sustainable solutions for the future. You mentioned something around diagnostic capabilities, which I think is also really important. A few months ago, we had, I don't know if Taze is still on the call. I really would love his insights as well. He came and spoke to us about diagnostics, particularly in whether it's with PET scan and CT scan, etc., and ways to expand diagnostic capabilities as well. And we've had other speakers who've come and talk to us about molecular markers of cancers and things like that. So I think what we cannot measure, we really cannot estimate. So we really have to ramp up on our diagnostic capabilities to really have a good sense of that. So that's some area I would like if you could provide more details on on expanding access really to some of these diagnostic capabilities as well. So I just wanted us to maybe kind of thinking around that framework as well. I do see that Taze's hand is up. Maybe I will just start with him, and maybe he can pose his question or add his contribution, and then maybe you can provide some feedback on your thoughts around these issues. Taze, please.
Yeah, hi, Brian. Hi, everybody. This is Sydney. Hi, Professor Mobit. Thank you so much for taking time off to join us this afternoon. I really want to applaud you for the amazing job you're doing in Cameroon. As a medical physicist myself, I understand the the technicalities and the intricacies and how big of a challenge it is to have a radiation oncology facility like yours up and running. So I personally do have patients who have been to your clinic who have been treated there, so I can attest the quality of work that you do there. So keep it up, and I'm here to support and to continue for us to make change in Cameroon. Yeah, I did have some few comments and questions, but I'm just gonna go straight and talk about what Dr. Brown was referring to as far as diagnosis is concerned. Yes, obviously, yes. With cancer here in the U.S., once a patient gets diagnosed with cancer, especially if they are younger, we spend weeks just doing a lot of testing to make sure that the cancer is well staged, because everything is driven. The treatment is completely driven by the staging. And some patients are going to get radiation, some are only going to get chemo, some are going to get hormonal, and some are going to be what we call watch and wait. So yes, a very good diagnostics is very, very important, and that's some things that I'm doing in Cameroon. But Professor Morbid, when we are in a low resource setting like we're in Cameroon, we're always finding ways to save the patient's money, and that's something that you've succeeded in doing. Patients are paying based on ability. One thing I was going to have you talk about a little bit is ways in which we reduce the number of treatments that patients can have. Because like for the audience who don't know this, cancer, the way we treat cancer, the patients come in every day for sometimes up to 8 weeks. And the more treatments that the patient has to take, then the higher the cost, but also then that means that the machine is not available for others to use. So I know there are certain things that we can do to reduce the number of treatments. That way there's more availability for other patients. Dr. Mobit, can you mind commenting on ways in which things that we can do going forward to make this available for more patients to come at your clinic and get treated?
Thank you very much. I'm going to answer the question 2 ways, and also to mention some other names when it comes to diagnosis and how to put the African continent on the map when it comes to radiation oncology. I think that you must know Professor Wilngwa, who has been leading an international effort in terms of seeing how he can get resources to Africa. And so that is one avenue, and I understand that there may be some money available through his program. I'm not quite sure. I've not discussed it with him. In terms of the diagnosis, I think that in Cameroon, we cannot be reinventing the wheel, if I may use that. When you look at a country like Uganda, which to me, I consider Uganda backward to Cameroon. But you look in the healthcare sector, they are far more advanced. You take things like immunohistochemistry. It's available in Uganda. Why do we not have it in Cameroon? Even Central Pasteur has to send the stuff out of Cameroon. If you go today and say that you want to establish a system in Cameroon, to do that, people will not send their samples, they will rather send them to France or send them somewhere or to India. So I think that for me, the best thing to do to reduce costs overall is to set up, especially for pathology, 2 or 3 high quality labs in Cameroon. What is done through the government or is through government individual, and encourage people or doctors and pathologists to use us as a resource. We actually have a plan to implement a telepathology that will be driven from the University of Ohio. Unfortunately, we had applied for a grant and we're not successful. That's something that we need to do. And again, if I'm a pathologist in Cameroon, I depend on interpreting the slides for a living. So you cannot just come with a system that take away my source of income. So when we develop this, we also have to look at the local physicians. How are they going to be able to make money? So you can have a system there, almost like a cooperative, but that produces the results that you want in terms of making this type of testing available in Cameroon. Coming back to radiation therapy, again, I'm going to mention Professor Ngwa again, Will Ngwa. He led an effort with for the African prostate protocol, where they were given 20 fractions as opposed to 38 fractions. He had invited Cameroon Oncology Center, but I was not interested. The reason is that we just started. We are a private center. If we injure the patient through just going into something without knowing, it could be serious. We could be closed down. So I wanted to be sure of what we are doing, because it's not just on paper, it has to be on patient. And so therefore, at this point, and then additionally, I also wanted image guidance on a daily basis in order to move to shorten radiation therapy protocol. So by October, end of October, when our second linear that has cone beam capability is installed, we will be able to offer shortened radiation therapy protocol. Actually, for our palliative cases, we are already doing that. So we have our accelerated palliative radiation therapy protocol that we use. So some patient might come with some, and we give them just 1 fraction, 8 gray, which is a protocol that's used in Europe and in Canada. Some we give 4 gray times 5 instead of the 3 gray times 10. So we shorten it from from 2 weeks to 1 week. Some come, we also have another protocol which is 6.5 gray times 2. So the patient gets a 2 gray, 2 fractions, 2 days, and they leave and go back where they came from. So we are already incorporating these in our protocols, but I think that we are going to embrace fully shortened protocols in October, when we'll be able to scan, we'll be able to do cone beam. So yeah. So hopefully I answer your question.
Just a small comment here, because our program in Cameroon, we treat our patient as our own people. So we can easily just decide to shorten the course if we don't care about the patient safety and the patient quality of care. There are always good and bad people in any profession, but we are here waiting for the piece of technology that allow us to do a CAT scan every day before we beam on to make sure that the tumor is being treated in the right way, and the internal motion of the bowel and the bladder and the stomach. We have too many moving targets in our human body. If you drink more water, the stomach, instead of being this size, is going to be that size. So the bigger the target, the more exposure to the body and the normal organ to radiation and more damage. So as Dr. Mobit was trying to explain, that based on our current limited technology, that we would like to get the state of the art, the same machine that I have in the US. Actually, the machine that Paul uses in Cameroon, I have it in my own practice in the US. And the one that he is getting with the CAT scan built in that we can do before every treatment, this will add another step for even a much shorter course. And instead of treating prostate cancer over 8 or 9 weeks, we can even treat it over 5 days only. So we are working on a very fast pace to try to get our people here the technology they deserve And of course, the resources is limiting us, and some of the bureaucracy and other human factor as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very, very much, Professor Walid. We are not just doing things haphazardly. You know, we come from a professorship background. We are not into business. So, and we are also into quality. And so the patient, if I cannot do something that I cannot do on myself, on my family, then we should not be doing it. So that's really the key. I mean, it would be cheaper for Cameroon Oncology Center to simply go into short-term radiation therapy. But for me, it has to be guided by quality and safety.
And evidence-based medicine. And I really love the fact that you're also doing appropriate research with your patient population as well. I just want to jump quickly and take Stella Maris Adamo's question in the chat. If you could comment on that. I do see that there are a few people who are named James Thomas. If you can rename your Zoom meeting name to the correct name, I'm sure you all probably use the same link to join the meeting. That would be great. But Stella asked a question around. Stella is from the Pacha Foundation, and the Pacha Foundation, I really want to recognize them for the efforts they've been doing in Cameroon for many years now to really take care of people with cancer in Cameroon. So welcome, Stella. It's a great and immense pleasure to have you among us today. I would love at some point to hear about the work of the Pacha Foundation as well. But she's asking a question around if you can speak on government collaboration and responsibility in terms of setting up these kinds of pathology access that you're alluding to, if this conversation has been had. And I just want to expand that question a little bit, Dr. Mobit and Walid, if you can speak a little bit more about international collaborations and partnerships in general, and those if how we can leverage some of those international, partnerships essentially to help realize this very important vision. Any thoughts on that, Professor Mobit?
Okay, let me take this from the physician standpoint. I think what we are trying to achieve over the last 5-6 years in COC has been very ambitious. Now, the cancer care is a big mission. It is not only pathology. It starts by number one, primary prevention. What are the reasons that patient or the people can get cancer? This has to be a national campaign. How to minimize the exposure of the hazards that cause cancer. The secondary prevention is the early screening program that we proudly have done. Thousands of patients, we screen them breast cancer, cervical cancer, and there is a lot of screening. Men has to go to prostate cancer. Women, they have breast, prostate, colon. Men, they have lung and prostate and colon. So there are so many screening programs that we should be focusing on, because when we diagnose the patient as a stage 1, the cost of curing the patient is few $1,000s. When the patient goes to stage 2 and 3 and 4, the cost of the treatment goes higher and the outcomes goes down. So you spend more and the patient dies faster. So if we invest somehow in the early phase, cancer prevention, early diagnosis and management, this would be the key to the future. Now, we have to move in parallel to improve our current treatment paradigms. The treatment paradigm happens with some of our patients, even in Egypt, in Africa, they don't go to the doctor, especially except they are bleeding or there is a severe pain. And usually when I see a man in my clinic, I get worried more than the woman, because men are the last to complain. So they come almost 90% in stage 4. Women, sometimes they get so anxious and they feel something in the breast or bleeding, they go right away to the doctor. So once the patient has a symptom, goes to the doctor. If she has the financial means, this can put her in a faster track to get diagnosed and get some scans, and also the quality of the scans and the reader of the scan. Anything we do in life is operator dependent. If you go to a good mechanic, the car will be good. If you have a bad plumber, your bathroom will be a mess. So everything you do in life depends on the quality of the person who is doing the job. You may go to a doctor, do a CAT scan for you, doesn't look carefully, and he missed something in the breast or the lung. So the quality of training of the physician, the access for the care, how fast do we move from discovering there is a lump in the breast until she see a surgeon? Then the surgeon does the surgery, then goes to the pathology. The pathology final diagnosis, then she see another doctor for chemotherapy or come to a cancer tertiary care. So it's a whole process. The pathology part, COC has been trying to do some collaboration with Ohio State, the James Cancer Center. We follow the NCCN guidelines. My cancer center is a marquee cancer center. I'm one of the 33 National Cancer Comprehensive Network. The cancer centers in the US, they write the guidelines called the NCCN guidelines. They have the top-notch one called NCI-CCC, Comprehensive Cancer Center, like the James that Dr. Falak is working there, and myself in the marquee. So we are trying to do a lot of collaboration, but the bureaucracy is taking a lot of time because we are not representing the government. We are representing a cancer center based on our personal network. I started some training that my own resident came from the United States and spent 1 month in COC in February of this year just to try to bridge this gap by doing the international scientific mission from the Marquis Cancer Center. And we got a grant from the American College of Radiation Oncology to sponsor this young man. So we are trying to move in multi-direction to build some collaboration to train personnel between in COC and also to get the quality of care from America to our people in Africa. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, let me just comment directly on Dr. Stella's patient. We had a partnership agreement signed with the government of Cameroon in 2013. It has gone through several revisions. We have hosted evaluation teams from the Ministry of Health, from the Prime Ministry, and from the presidency to the investment, the Cameroon Investment Corporation, or they call it IPC or something. And today, there's been no result. We have spent more money entertaining these evaluation visits, and they really have taken us nowhere. And why is it that? The bottom line stays with the team. This person says, oh, Cameroon Oncology Center is very expensive. This person said that we should not invest any money in private centers. Let's do the government centers. And there's a conflict. So in terms of anything coming from the government of Cameroon, I doubt that we will really see anything. We don't have any political connections. We are just us trying to get help, trying to treat patients. That's all I'm interested in. But we've done our best. We've tried to collaboration, even with the government hospitals. They think of Cameroon Oncology Center as a threat. And so you think, why are we are a threat for what? We just want to treat patients. Things that can come to benefit us, like some of the chemotherapy drugs, we do not have access to because people think maybe we're treating goats, right? Not Cameroonians. And as I said, I don't understand. So you have these type of issues that crop up. And today, 10 years later, treated over 1,000 patients, screened in 10 regions, screened 5,000 Cameroonians. We have zero compensation by the government, or zero, even the money that's allocated for cancer care, we have zero. So we are not looking into, if you design a program based that the government is going to give you this, yeah, if you have the political connection, maybe work. We don't have political connection. We are just there for cancer. We are just there for patients. And that's all I can say. But that is the truth. We've received no funding from anywhere. It's like me, Professor Walid, Professor Folefa, who is on that, have contributed something. But in terms of this, we don't. We are hoping that with all the data we've got, that we can start now applying for international grants to help us. But really, there's really been no effort. There's been no thing coming from from the government. And I can understand why, because this person says this, the other person says this. The government, which is the politician, they do not know who is right. For instance, somebody said the best care is delivered on a cobalt 60. This is coming from an oncologist, right? If he says that the best care, the best radiation therapy is on the teletherapy unit, and he's repeating that to you, you don't know, is he just being joking or is he serious?
Well, Paul, look, this has been mentioned in the Bible before,
So we don't want to go into those areas because it's going to bring us trouble.
This is very common, man. A prophet is not without honor except in his own country, man. So this is very normal. So
if a radiation oncologist tells you that you are that the cobalt 60 is better than the linear accelerator, treating without CT is better than treating with CT, you just have to accept that either it's fake news or he doesn't really know what you're doing. And we have some of that. I'm not really going to go to that because I create enmity from nothing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think a clinical decision should really be based on evidence-based medicine. It really should be informed by what the research shows. And just to add to Jennifer Den's point, we will try, I think at the end of this session, we'll try to come up with a policy briefing, which we would like to revisit that conversations that you're having with the Ministry of Health as well. I think it will be very important for Dr. Mono Former, who is on this call, is part of the committee that was set up by His Excellency the Minister to enhance these kinds of discussions. So I hope that ensuing from this meeting, we will try to expedite that as well and start those conversations over. But your point is duly noted, Jennifer. So thanks. Just want to take the next question, the next hand that's up. I think I see Clicks Miller. We have very limited time, so if you can make your question very short, that'll be great. Can.
Thank you so much, Brian, and thanks to Professor Paul for the wonderful work he's doing. I would just like to put this, we've talked so much about collaboration, and we are looking much here about international collaboration and collaboration with the Ministry of Health. And I think in Cameroon, we have other facilities or units that are struggling to manage cancer as well. Some 2 or 3 sessions ago, we were talking about fragmentation in the healthcare service delivery. And I would just like to find out, for the information I have, I think Bingo Baptist Hospital is also doing somehow relatively good when it comes to managing clients with cancer. I just wish to find out from Prof if they have also considered maybe having this type of collaboration between private or some other government hospitals in the event that some clients may be referred to him, or he may also refer some clients to those people, especially if they have some advanced services in the general cancer care. Thank you, and over.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you for that question. I did not mention, we actually have a partnership that we executed with the Bingo Baptist Hospital. That was about 5 years ago. It lapsed and we did not renew it. I had sent a note to Professor T to have this renewed. But despite that, we are actually working collaboratively with Bingo Baptist Hospital. Now, when Dr. Tonto, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name well, he is on this call. I did see his name. So maybe we should give him a chance to say something. So he is actually referring some of the patients to us. And actually, we have referred so many patients to him, but we didn't write him a letter. If there's a patient in Bamenda, for instance, I would say, okay, if you need this, go and see him first and see whether do you really need to come to Douala. Because people think that we are in here for the money. Not. Yes, we need the money to operate, but it is for the care of the cancer patient. So we sometimes send patients to him. And we are hoping to build on this collaboration. For instance, we are starting a training program. They already have about 6 students lined up or 4 students lined up. So we have that partnership. you propose, we have a partnership with the Ministry of Health. It doesn't mean that it's financial. We actually have a partnership or collaboration, which gives us access to all the hospitals in Cameroon. But in the end, it depends on the head of these units. So we've proposed several partnerships with the government hospital like Douala. They are not interested. Yaoundé General Hospital, they are not interested, and I can understand why. But we have a partnership that we had with l'Hôpital Gynéco Yaoundé, right? And the other hospital, maybe because of misinformation, think that we are out for something different. I don't know. But that's why we are now going even into the regional hospital and creating collaboration. In fact, Madame Maxine B, I don't know whether she's on the call. She can tell you in the last 2 months, she's visited most of the regional hospitals to create this collaboration, and also for patient care, because patients don't know we exist. So.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks. It's great to hear.
Sorry, can Dr. Tonto, can you say something from Bingo, please? I know you are on the call. I saw your name. Can you give him a chance, Dr.?
Sure.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Dr. Tumsi Tonto. Sorry, I think I dropped out of the call because of internet issues. I'm a clinical and radiation oncologist, also a fellow of the College of Radiation Oncologists of South Africa. I'm here in Bingo since January, and we are building a radiation therapy unit. It's not yet functional, so most of my patients, I have to send them to Cameroon Oncology Center. And obviously, a lot of the patients will complain about the cost of treatment, but having had exposure, to the modern radiotherapy techniques and the efficacy, I usually have to encourage them, if they have to make financial sacrifices to achieve cure, then they will have to go to Cameroon Oncology Center. We are also having a big challenge, with having the radiotherapy workforce that will be necessary for our center. And given the fact that Cameroon Oncology Center is starting a training program in October, we have picked about 6 candidates, 4 to train for radiation therapy and 2 to train for medical physics. So I think it's very important for us to realize that more than 90% of our patients in Cameroon who need radiotherapy don't have access to radiotherapy. And so there's more than enough for everyone, So if we have a center like Cameroon Oncology Center, there is actually no reason to try to bring it down. Cameroon needs about 30 radiotherapy units to meet its need. And we have 2. And I think we need to collaborate. We need to work together to build more centers and encourage the existing ones that are providing the service, but just have this more than enough mentality and encourage one another so that we meet the needs of our patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tonto. Jean-Claude Kate, please.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. And I think I've got 2 questions. And before that, Prof, I just want to say it's great to see you are integrating research to what you are doing on the ground, because it's well proven that centers that do applied academic research in conjunction to providing their clinical care actually do better than centers that, just provide care. And so it's really great to see that you are applying that and also trying to publish some of the results that you are getting from your center. And one question is around referral. And you've said it twice that it seems people don't know you exist. Is it only a problem about not being seen by maybe the public sector? Or is there a push or a pull kind of strategy that you've thought about or that you are implementing to make the Cameroon Oncology Center more more aware to the general public? And my second question is just around, you've mentioned that cancers are very aggressive, so this is more scientific. I just wanted to know your thoughts. Is it aggressiveness can be the fact that people present late and so it's difficult to treat? Or do you think there are other issues related to the biology of cancer in Cameroon and in Africa that makes our cancers more aggressive than what you're seeing in the US? Thank you very much.
I can attest that we have a lot of papers has been published in the US by our brothers from Africa and sisters that have showed that for prostate cancer, we have more aggressive by genetics or behavior in the African-American population versus the Caucasian ones. Now, for skin cancer, it's high risk for the albinos one more than the African-American. We have very in the dark skin people, Egyptian, Cameroonian, in the whole Africa, we have minimal incidence of skin cancer in general. Now, in males who don't have circumcision, they have more incidence of cancer in the penis because of lack of circumcision. So there are, for breast cancer in the US, the studies have shown because of lack of access in the African-American population in the US, the patient comes in late phase, so they have the tendency to live less. However, if you diagnose the white and the black girl in the same time with cervical cancer or breast cancer, there is no difference in the outcome. However, due to the poverty index in the US for the African-American population, they get less quality care, so they live less than the white ones because the white ones get higher and better quality care for cancer and everywhere else. And when we have seen this in COVID, and there is disparity in the healthcare in the US, as if this is life. Life is unfair, so we just have to do our best.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Professor Walid. For me, there are two things. Yes, there are some genetic differences, but I actually believe that there is a difference. That in some cancer, that the biology might be different, and I firmly believe that some of the protocols that have been used here in the US, we use internationally, that we need to adapt and modify them to be used in Africa. That's why we are trying new strategy for cervical cancer. If I look alone at the volume, let's say the gross tumor volume that Professor Walid will outline, you compare that to, let's say, even the same-stage disease in the United States, the volume is humongous, right? It might be 3 or 4 times, 5 times bigger. If you're just going to use chemo irradiation, would that maybe increasing the dose in the in the tumor? You're likely not going to be successful. So when we started, I can tell you, we received a lot of head and neck patients from the Chang area for some reason. These were young women that they don't fit the profile of a head and neck cancer patient in the United States in no way. Are you going to tell me that the evolution of these patients, young women, most of them were teachers, I didn't see anything that should make them have head and neck cancer, but they did, and they are young. And then you say, well, what about a head and neck cancer in the United States? So I think that there are differences. It is now left for us Cameroonians to invest in the research and then to publish and show that, no, yes, there are differences. Are these differences in the biology, in the genetics, in whatever? That's why we are interested in research. We are very, very interested because this is what is going to inform us. But not just trying this thing on the patient. It has to be under some protocol. So we know how to select these patients and how to compare them at the end of the study. So, we don't just want to try anything, but what I'm saying is that I think, slightly different from Professor Walid, that I think that there might be some differences in some of the tumor in Cameroonian than it is.
Yeah,
it's just a guess. This is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Professor Mobit, and I think the Mono can also speak more into this as well. I think Cameroon is still light years behind with using next generation sequencing technologies and high throughput sequencing really to characterize the biology of cancer cells. So I think that's one, the progress we've seen in next generation sequencing and how much elucidation it can really bring in this era of precision medicine could really help us. But I think Cameroon is still way behind in terms of even using next generation sequencing technologies in infectious diseases, talk less of things like cancer. But I think that's one area that could really help us streamline and really know what the characteristics and the drivers of these cancers really
Can I
are.
quickly step on that comment to make mine, if it's possible? Sorry.
Yeah, please, if you can, just introduce yourself and just tell us what you are. Your name appears as James Thomas. I was asking if those who are named James Thomas, if you can just rename yourself on the Zoom username so that we know who you are, and then it'll be easier for us. Please, if you can introduce yourself, tell us where you are, where you're calling us from, and your affiliation as well. That'll be helpful.
Okay, thank you for taking my quick comment then. So I'm Professor Jane Fergenk at Mississippi State University. I'm not an oncologist, but I'm a scientist really interested with all the things related to health, animals, and human health. So in this case, I want to jump on this one because I have several comments, and mostly on this one related to research. I think it's really important. I do like what Dr. Professor Mobit mentioned there, adaptation of the protocols. Because one of the mistakes I believe we usually do in the tropics, we try to transfer technologies and protocols to areas where we might not be facing the true problems. And I think we all mentioned the lack of technology to know the real causes of our disease, our problems. So because of those lacks, I think it's truly important to adapt, to know exactly what's going on in our specific area, because the etiology of our problems might be fully different from what we have here in the North. I think Dr. Walid mentioned the differences that we found between ethnicities, African American, white people. So we thought, we think there are some genetic causes on those diseases. But seems like to what he mentioned, if the care is taken, if we take care of those patients at the early stage of the disease, this could be, we might not see any difference in terms of treatment between white and black, for example. But that's here in the US. But now then, if you take it down to Africa, for example, here in Cameroon, Dr. Mobit just mentioned, on the screening that they did, they found that in chunk area, the head and neck cancer incidence is much higher, but we don't know why. That's really important. It's truly important to know why. Yes, you mentioned all the technologies currently available, like non-sequencing and so on. I think we're still far off reaching of those in Cameroon because even the basis, we are not able to provide ourselves on them. But one suggestion I might say from what he's doing, I'm glad to hear that there have been a lot of screening done in diverse areas in Cameroon. That's really important. But I think so far, I'm not sure if I missed it. What are you doing with those information? Because I think you are generating a mine of information that could be useful either for COC, also for the government, for the people, for their own awareness and preparedness, and also for the funding, potential funding in agencies. For instance, the data that you accumulated, I guess you mentioned more than 5,000 data a patient. But now you have to transform those patients into data that will be more informative. And you should have some brochures that you can generate from those studies. Yeah, I know you are doing a lot of publications, but they are all in English, and we are dealing with a country where most of people are French speakers. So, and also these are sciences. Most of them, they don't read. They don't read those publications. That's just good for us, but we are not the main targets. I think from those publication, from those screening, we can decide, we can produce some brochures for the general publics to increase the awareness and probably the preparedness of those people. And I think if you try to go that way, if it's not already done, probably people will realize more to understand more what it is. And then probably the accessibility to the care might be increased. So I think you have a lot of things that even to involve local students for data analysis to compare the care of a cancer patient in the North versus Cameroon to see what could be done differently and what have been done differently and that should be changed. I think these are all things that we can do, you can do to increase your visibility and to increase the impact of the effort in the countries and around. And I'm really glad to see this, to see all the progress you have done so far. I really appreciate all the people currently present to listen to this because it's really interesting when you stay far away and talking about your own country. Thank you very much. I'm curious to hear about your comments, and I'm willing to contribute to the discussion now forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jean. We appreciate you. I know you have been an advisor to me on the project, on the science, and I really appreciate your input. I'm going to throw this out probably before we close. It's already 2 hours since we started, that Cameroon Oncology Center is open for collaboration with any Cameroonian anywhere in the world. When you are visiting Cameroon, if you are in the diaspora, you're visiting Cameroon, please arrange to give a talk in any aspect of health, or even its customer service if you are not in healthcare, to our staff. We receive every month, we have presentations by experts in different fields. And so if you are in a university or you're a professor and you have a project you are doing in genetics, come to us. There's no bureaucracy. It's a yes or no. If we can do it and collaborate with you, get Cameroonians involved in the new technology, get Cameroonians involved in research in Cameroon and outside of Cameroon, we are happy to be part of any project that you have anywhere in the world that you think that we can participate in. And so that's what I would say, that we are open. There's no bureaucracy. It's just a quick email and we are ready to go. There's no going and see the director or go and get this. No, there is not. We are simple. There's no bureaucracy. Let me put it that way.
Thanks a lot, Mobit. We are running short on time. So Dr. Mono, with your permission, maybe we'll take an extra 15 minutes so we can get the hands that are currently up. Just quickly, Franklin Maloba, if you can make your question very, very concise, that'll be helpful. Franklin, please.
Yeah, thank you, Brian, for the time. Yeah, I think thank you very much, Professor Paul, for this excellent presentation with your team. Yeah, sincerely, this is my first time I'm hearing about COC, even though I've worked in Cameroon in many hospitals for almost 10 years. Yeah, I think that a lot needs to be sent out there for us, some people to know, because many are still blinded about the structure, which is very important. Secondly, based on the fact, the National Institute of Statistics published that about 10 million Cameroonians are living with less than $1 a day. And based on your equipment and things you have, it shows that it's difficult for many Cameroonians to access this care. What are the alternative tests that you guys think, or alternative method that you guys think you can put there to the population where they can spend less, but to get the same maybe facilities or treatment or maybe diagnostics? Yeah. And then also as a follow-up of Cindy question, where a lot of patients are coming to congest to the structure, what are you doing to decentralize this structure? Are you struggling to create satellite site or lab maybe in the regional hospitals where you can train maybe 1 or 2 technicians who can act like people who can give you this direct information, so that at least you would decongest the structure, you would take those cases that are really severe, while the hospital can manage the cases that are less severe to decongest the number of patients you guys have. Finally, Dr. Paul actually looked into, Professor Jane, the one that just spoke, look into my last question, which was the fact that you went to the different regions, you get a lot of this data. Are there those people, the local authorities there, like the parliamentarians, are they even aware of this data? Because what you're saying, sincerely, is something that is very trivial and that is important to the country. How many parliamentarians in this region know about this, which they can table to their parliament? And even the Ministry of Health, do they know about this? Because sometimes we just assume that they will not do anything. But I can promise you that one of them may bring this in their parliament and the other may support it, and you may get the necessary equipments and funding that you need for this. Thank you. I'm sorry for taking the time. And thank you, Tango, for bringing this
very quickly. Let me do it very quickly. In terms of the last question, in terms of parliamentarians, we have received parliamentarian and some low-level government officials at the center. So we've received parliamentarians and senators at the center. Some of them have been treated there. So, and they know about it. If you go to, let's say, the senator or the parliamentarian for Bikoko, where we are located, the first thing he asks you is, what is in it for me? If there's nothing in it for him, he has no interest, right? This is the way the politics operate in Cameroon. If there's nothing personal for him to gain, he's not interested in it. This is just some of the way we've evolved. So, except there's something personal, or except there's a family member that has this, then he becomes interested. Without that, there's no interest in cancer in general or in other things. If there's interest, yes. In terms of decongestion, we are installing a second linear accelerator in Bikoko. I had written that we wanted to install this in the north, because you can imagine there's going to be a linear accelerator in the northwest region in Baptiste. There's one in Bikoko in the littoral that can access people from the center. But the entire north region, there's none. We wrote a proposal. Instead of locating this in, let's locate the second linear accelerator in the north, in one of the northern regions. Is zero response from all the levels. We wrote a letter to the minister, we wrote a letter to the regional, even to the hospital themselves. And we have no response. So we have to, where we are located, we have to put it there. Else we would have just taken that one and go to another region to serve, if that's our purpose, and that's our purpose. So again, I say we don't have any, they say, godfather. It's just a simple physicist, that's all. If you have some godfather that can help us push some of the agenda, we'll be happy. But I don't know anybody. I left Cameroon when I was 18 years old to England. And I don't know, I know the system, but I don't have any political connection with anybody in Cameroon.
Yes, but Prof, when they go out to do the screenings, they do meet government officials, right? I thought in some of the places it was being arranged by the SDOs and all the like, so they are aware. I think that's what he wanted to know. Yes.
Yeah, they are aware, but being aware and doing something about it are two different things. They receive you, they give you a drink, or you give them a drink, and that's the end of it. Somebody has to own it, to be able to go to somebody and say, okay, this is an important project. Imagine the senior divisional officer in one of the regions, or the governor was to write to the minister of health that I received this is a good project. The minister, instead of hearing from the medical doctor that said don't collaborate with Cameroon Oncology Center might now hear now from the citizen, maybe he now thinks about twice about it. But again, there's no ownership. There has to be ownership for you to get some.
Thank you.
For you to get a response. I mean, that's the experience that I have. Maybe other people have other experiences.
I completely agree that some degree of political ownership of the issue is critically important. Please, Frank Nwanamo, s'il te plaît, go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I'm Dr. Frank Nwanamo, surgeon, and I'm actually working in Italy. I have 3 questions, but I'm going very quickly. My first question is, we do know that cancer is a kind of multimodality therapy, and I wanted to know about surgery. How do you manage a patient who have to go through a surgery? You know, maybe a hepatic resection or maybe a gastrectomy. Second question is about your business model. We all talk about disability, which is a very, very big challenge. How is your business model? My last question is maybe it can sound like a question a little bit provocative. There has been a while that I'm reading about a certain Thomas Selfred from Boston, who is challenging the thinking about the tumor genesis, because for him, the tumor genesis is about metabolic. I wanted to know your thinking about that. Do you know is maybe is a way we can explore, maybe to bring many other modality treatment about in Africa and Cameroon? Thank you.
So I didn't get the question quite well. I don't know whether somebody can, I don't know from the question, or maybe type it up. So I don't want to get the answers wrong.
The first one?
Yes.
The first question? The first question
I mean,
is
all
about
the questions,
how
I didn't
to
get them
manage...
quite well.
The first question, how do you manage cancer patients who have to go through a surgery? Do you operate patient in the center or maybe the hospitals? This is the first question. The second question is about your business model. Okay.
Yes. No, we don't. We have, we just recruited a general surgeon, and he is not going to be able to operate on some of the cancer patients, I mean, in fact, most of them. So what we've been doing is that we have individual collaboration with certain doctors in Douala and in the Southwest region, and actually even in Bamenda. So if the patient comes and we think the patient needs a urologist, we will send that patient to the urologist. And then we deal with administration of chemotherapy and radiation. We have maybe operated on 5 patient, breast patients, but generally not. So, but that's something that we believe that it is available in Cameroon, even though we have very few trained surgical oncologists. I know maybe 2 or 3. And but we believe that that can easily be provided by others, that we concentrate on things that cannot be provided. For instance, radiation therapy and SPEC and nuclear medicine. This is something that is unique. We can do it very, very effectively. So in terms of the business model, I wouldn't say, as I say, I describe Cameroon Oncology Center as a revenue neutral. What do I mean by revenue neutral? It means that if you are a patient and you come to us, we will provide you the best care at our level. If we accept to treat you for free, we will give you the same treatment as if you pay 3 million. So there are some patients that come to us and pay 3 million, 3.6 million francs. There are some patients that come to us and pay 0. Right? So we have developed a model. So we assess and ask you to pay a certain amount. The bill is the same. So if you have prostate cancer and we treat prostate cancer with 38 fractions, we'll calculate the bill and we'll give it to you. Then we'll then sit down and look and say, how much can you really afford? Right? And then we reduce what we charge you based on that. So if you're looking at, so that's what we do. And because it's a single institution person, my staff make that decision. I do not even make that decision. Patient might contact me privately and I ask them to give a special. This is a decision that's made on the ground by my staff.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Kenji, thanks a lot, Dr. Mobit. Dr. Kenji, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian, for the opportunity, and thanks, Professor, for all you're doing. Not really a question. I just wanted to comment a little bit on diagnostics. When you shared the publication on, very few people having access to histology, that kept me a little worried, but not surprising, especially in Cameroon. I did part of my laboratory training in Cameroon, and I feel like part of the problem stems from the curriculum. Right, most of the training that we got is more focused on infectious disease. If you take the average clinical lab scientist in Cameroon, you give all the malaria slides, they're gonna pick it up, right? They're gonna run typhoid, they're gonna do culture. But when it goes to anatomic pathology and histology, I think that is where it is really lacking. I'm sure I had just one lecture in anatomic pathology, right, during my 4-year program there in the University of Boyer, doing my clinical science program. I always say you can build the best labs, put the best equipments and everything, but if you don't have competent people to work in it, it's just like just having a dead end. So I think one way of addressing the diagnostic issues is not all about bringing equipment, but just going back to our curriculum and see if we can incorporate some of these other aspects in it. I never heard anything about next generation sequencing throughout my training as a clinical laboratory scientist in Cameroon, right? But now that is one of the cutting edge technologies. So I think we just need to rethink on how we train the techs in Cameroon. I work in the US, right? When I was giving my license as a medical lab director, I can direct any unit of the laboratory in the US, but I cannot direct anything that has to do with histology because that is a completely different field. That's how America considers it. And yeah, Stanford, we have histotech. So they go through a special program to be trained in histology. Then they are licensed to be able to prepare those slides, do all the staining and all the like. So I think that is one thing that we really have to think of. And, I will not just say, just invest in this. We also need to invest in the training program. I think setting up an anatomic pathology lab is way cheaper as compared to setting up a clinical pathology lab. I give you, for example, in microbiology, something like the WAPS would take you like $1.8 million. But if you want to get a microtome, it's like maybe $10,000, right? So it's relatively cheaper to be able to do that. But I feel like maybe the reason why it's not getting to our authorities is because maybe the epidemiology is kind of detecting where they should put the focus on. And it's like the focus in Cameroon is a lot more, right, on the infectious disease side as compared to the oncology side, which we really need to have a shift because, as I always tell my students in Cameroon when they tell me that, hey, there's a lot of diabetic patients, now I'm saying, no, it's because now we are testing, right? And again, if we don't test for those cancers, we will not know how big the problem is. And I really feel like implementing molecular diagnostics will probably be a little bit easier as compared to histology. Again, no tissue, no issue. We understand that. But the good thing with molecular and next generation sequencing is that you don't need some very, very experienced pathologists to be able to interpret the data. With sequencing, we have all these bioinformatics pipelines. I remember when I was lead scientist at Illumina, where we had the TruthSight Oncology 550, we built a pipeline that will be able to interpret that huge data. So imagine from each patient, we are looking at 550 cancer genes, and that pipeline was able to interpret that data and even predict if the patient will respond to this and this chemotherapy or not. So that way, you really reduce that burden of needing a pathologist per se to be able to make all those interpretations. Because the issue with slides is that you really need the pathologist, right, to look at those slides. Even the PA will look at it, but at the tail end is the pathologist that's going to do that sign out. And I'm so excited with AI. I think microbiology has really gone ahead in terms of using AI. Now in the micro lab, we are not spending time again looking at plates. We have a robot that will just take pictures of those plates and look at E. coli. And just from the picture and everything, it has all this algorithm, it tells you it's E. coli.
So I think anatomic pathology has to start shifting towards that as well, where you can scan this side using your digital scanner, and you have all these algorithms that can be able to, look at those slides and give you some predictions. Stanford, we recently started, using AI as well. Again, it has not gone so far, and I know Mayo is also trying to do that. So I hope that with things like that, it can really help. That if you can have a good histotech in Cameroon, a good histotech training program in Cameroon, where you have a PA program to where they can do the grossing and all those things, prepare the slides, scan them. You can use AI or use digital pathology. I also understand the concern of, how about the pathologists in Cameroon too, in terms of using digital pathology. But it need to reach a point where we have to put the patient first. Right? If we're only considering about the pathologists in Cameroon, then people don't have access, right, to all the services and they die, right? Where do we do the risks, and balances? I'm just gonna, end here for now. I just wanted to, chime in when it comes to diagnostics. Thanks.
You're muted, Prof.
Thank you very much. Definitely, I need you to contact me offline. These are the type of people that I want to talk with, because it is the advice. I'm not a specialist in that area, right? So if you come up with some proposal, in fact, Jennifer then from Venture for Global, she had already made arrangement for somebody to come to Cameroon for 6 months to train on some aspect of histopathology, our technicians. So I am absolutely interested to talk with you. And maybe there is a project and stuff for that. You can slide a little bit of Cameroon Oncology Center in, and maybe we'll benefit from your knowledge, from your experience, and they will be happy maybe to collaborate with us in Cameroon and we'll write a little project. So those are the things that are of interest to me. We don't want people to bring money. Money is good. It's the ideas and the connection to the bigger world that Cameroon Oncology Center need to move the cancer care forward. So thank you very, very much. So I'll contact you offline and let's see how we can do.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think Dr. Kenji has been very, very innovative in the diagnostic space. So I think that would be a really great point of contact for the COC as well. We'll take this last 2 questions. I really want the chair of the town hall, who is an oncologist himself, to give a few words towards the end. I know we've long past the closing hour, but I'd really like to hear his closing remarks and thoughts on this topic as well. So please, Simon and Matt Polo, if you can make your contributions or thoughts very concise, so we can round up, please. Simon and then Dr. Polo.
Thank you very much. Based on what Prof said and what I'm just queuing in with what Dr. Kenji said. During my training in microbiology, particularly, I'm just sharing the on-ground experience. I work at a clinical setting. We don't have anything concerning histopathology diagnosis. It will be interesting if a training program, even if it's a crash course, that is incorporated into your business model, because I think you work basically on referral, which for me it's a big problem, because it is very subjective on who wants to collaborate with you. Had it been you had clearance in order to work in all the centers, or you were under the tutel of the ministry, it would have been easier for you to penetrate all medical levels in Cameroon. Because for now, if you take the medical structure in Cameroon, your business model permits you to work only with category 3 upwards. But as from category 3 downwards, which is controlled by the ministry, it will be very difficult for directors to take decisions to collaborate with you.
Yeah.
That is just the
Simon, can we
input I
go straight to
wanted
the
to
point,
bring in.
please? So that we are running
thanks a
late.
lot, Simon. We're really, really running short on time. We really had to end this at 2, but so thanks a lot for that contribution. I just want to add Dr. Polo's voice. If you can also make your contribution a little bit concise so we can move on. Dr. Polo, please.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Dr. Pomit, for the excellent talk. I just wanted to follow up on the comment that has been made before regarding leveraging AI, artificial intelligence in pathology. I just want to mention that when we think about AI, we need to have data relevant to the context. Even if we were to use the algorithm that are already been developed, there is a good chance that we might miss the interpretation in the local patient because we don't have data from patients from Cameroon. So we always have to be cautious when we export models which have been trained on different data than the data that we collect from Cameroon. So I think it's an excellent idea, perhaps getting the slide if the COC has slides or has data that can be that could be leveraged to train those models. That's probably a good start. Otherwise, I fear that we might have interpretation which are not actually correlating with the reality that we have in Cameroon. So I hope this is brief for you, Ryan. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that cannot be overemphasized. In fact, even with the AI we are using in treatment planning, we see that it doesn't get the cervix right because I was trained on a slightly different models. So we need to develop our own so that it gets some of ourselves because again the cancer might have pushed the cervix to a different location and stuff like that. So I agree with you 100%.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Professor Mobit and also Professor Walid. Thanks a lot. I think this has been a very, very enriching conversation. I just want to I just want to give our chair, Dr. Monofoma, maybe to give his own thoughts and remarks and also contributions and in terms of what you've seen in your practice as an oncologist in the United States and really your overall perspective on this talk today. I just wanted to give you a chance to talk, Dr. Foma, please.
Oh, thank you, Brian. And I've been looking forward to this presentation, I'll tell you that, because I've always been thinking, how did Professor Paul Mobit do this? I had 100 questions, which he's a friend. I will talk with him later on now, where we know each other. But it's always been, how could he achieve this? Something which our government could not achieve in the past 50 years. You know, I'm always frank when it comes to cancer care. And Dr. Mobit, I will tell you, I'm always saying it the way it is. People perceive you as a threat. It's not that they do not, they do. Where there is lack of knowledge, where people don't even know they don't know, then you get to a position where things are done wrong. Since I started collaborating, I trained in Cameroon. That's the good part about it. So, and I did pathology before coming to the US. So I did a residency in pathology. You may not know that. And my background coming that way, I do know what they lack. And I understand that there is a big challenge in training. What I admire about your model is that you're not just going to treat cancer. You're looking at all the preventive medicine, as Professor Walid said. We start from primary prevention to secondary to tertiary, where we find ourselves. And if Africa is just going to tackle cancer at the level of tertiary prevention, we are not going to be able to actually fight it and win it. So I just really want to applaud you, but I will tell you that one of the big problems I've been facing back in Cameroon, I did a series of lectures on breast cancer. It was, Sydney will tell you, Sydney and I collaborated. It was, I saw your paper and I read it. And that was the most challenging thing because it's true. Even when you join the few tumor board, you realize that nobody knows the basic histopathology of any breast cancer. It's just recently that people have been asking it. No one knew the ER status. No one knew the PR status. No one knew the HER2 status of what they were treating. So there was a big challenge even in knowledge. There's a big challenge in how we train our general practitioners, what they even think. Do they even know the place of radiation? As you said, your center should be a reference where students should be sent there. Medical oncologists, where do they rotate? Do they even have exposure to radiation oncology services? Do they even know it existed? I did medical oncology in the US and I spent 2 months in radiation oncology just to know, not to claim that I'm an expert in it, no, just to know the kind of services my colleagues will be able to offer. Do we even train physicists? Do we have dosimetries? Do we have the basic things that we can even run a center? Those are always reflections that I have all the time. Even in medical oncology, do we train medical oncology nurses? Do we have people who can administer chemotherapy safely in Cameroon? Do we even think about training the other people who work with us? We can open 20 medical schools, but have we ever opened a school to train techs? Have we ever opened a school to train people who will be dosimetrists in Cameroon? Do we even train our doctors about cancer diagnosis and what it takes? Do they even understand? Because each time I get to participate in tumor boards now in Cameroon, I have come to a real good conclusion that our problems are fundamental. I'm not going to, Brian, I will not spend today going into talking about next generation sequence because our problems are very, very fundamental. Histopathology in Cameroon is fundamentally flawed. And you cannot even challenge some of the professors. I'm just saying this because I attended tumor boards at La Cantinière. I asked them a basic question. Why can La Cantinière not do histopathology for breast cancers? Why?
Why?
Why? I could not understand. This is a technology that has been existing for 50 years. Why don't they even feel it's important? I discovered it was lack of knowledge. That was
but I think they will consider you an enemy.
Yes, they did. In the tumor board, a friend of mine who is in charge, because I know most of the people, and I had to tell them, you don't orientate. A tumor board is not meant for you to be challenging other doctors or pourquoi tu as fait un CT scan. You guys have to talk about your own part, the pathologies. If you cannot do histochemistry in breast cancer, then you cannot manage breast cancer. So really, you're doing a wonderful job. I want to say that it's not really for questions. I will talk off the chat, but Cameroon, you are a potential threat to a lot of people. Those in L'Hôpital General, I'm going to say the way it is, who have a cobalt machine for years. The one in L'Hôpital General, Yaoundé, has never been working. They see you as a threat because they can only justify wrong things they are doing. The government, I don't understand why they cannot get to that point. Poor training is a problem. Lack of knowledge is a problem. Dishonesty is a big problem. Not knowing that you don't know is actually a problem. And if we don't start to hold the bull by the horn in Cameroon, I talk to the minister sometimes, and I like to say it the way it is. If cancer becomes a problem, we need to start training people. Once garbage in, garbage out. So at this moment, we need to orientate our training, get people trained well, make sure they know exactly what is going on, and they should be humble enough to also learn. So I just want to thank you for your time. I may have sounded, I don't sound this way in the town hall. I sound this maybe once in 6 months. I may sound that harsh, but truly we need to get to a point where people need to understand that when you provide good care, and I don't understand why all oncology should not be referring you their patients. You cannot compare. I'm not saying they should refer you their patients because that is where they will get the best care. Being a medical oncologist, cancer is a holistic management. We need radiation oncologists as much as, and radiation care as much as we need medical care. Different types of medical care. We need surgery, but we have known for years, even the surgeries that are done back home, they are not done properly because people don't understand holistic surgical management. They are not trained as surgical oncologists, so they don't even know when they are not supposed to operate. I can give you hundreds of cases who did not need an operation, but who got one. I had a patient recently, I'll just give us an anecdotal experience, who came in, seen in a big hospital in Cameroon, prostate cancer. The daughter is an internist here whom we trained, calls me, my father is getting a prostatectomy. I think it's not appropriate, but the doctors don't even want to talk to me. His PSA is 200. And I said, and he's complaining of back pain, but I'm telling them to do a CT scan. Nobody wants to do it. And Dr. Ken Former, I know you have connections in that hospital. He had meds everywhere. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that. So The urologist had already planned for surgery, but did not even want to listen. So this goes to the fundamentals that I think there's a basic fundamental problem, or people sell their consciences in search of money at a certain level. And all what we can do is support you. But I just wanted to give this last reflection. So Brian, these are my last reflections about this topic. It's a sad one, but there is light in the middle of the tunnel. And I think training is one of the big things in Cameroon. We need to incorporate it into everyone's training, both those in the lab, the doctors themselves, the GPs, everyone's training. And it's just not oriented towards the right direction when it comes to cancer care. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Molo, thanks a lot. Those were very deep remarks. And thanks. Unfortunately, we really have to close. But I really want to thank the COC and everyone that joined. I saw that Jennifer Dent was very active in the chat, and the others as well, Heather Davidson. And yeah, so thanks a lot for joining, and thanks a lot for the conversation. I just want to give Professor Walid and Professor Mobit maybe any closing thoughts and remarks before we officially stop the recording and close the meeting. I'll start with Dr. Walid.
Thank you very much. All what I can say is just as a closing remarks for me, this project has started from a very good heart for a very good cause. That's why I personally don't know all this successes that we have been achieving, maybe just because of the good cause. It's the same way when you want to build a church or a mosque or something. When you start a good project, all of a sudden you find a lot of good hands helping you out. And when I went to COC in this February of this year, I saw that we are not only just treating the cancer patient. If you see at the number of the employees that Dr. Mobit is opening their hiring them, and those people are serving, every one of them has 4 to 5 people in the family. So he himself, I mean, he's a friend. I work for COC for free. I volunteer for the last 5-6 years and more, and I will continue to do this for free. What I'm trying to say is always when you try to match good people together, the outcomes will be much more blessed, and you will get more rewards. Even for the team who work there, if you help one father to sponsor his family through the COC, and we can even break even. Most of the time, actually, Paul pays from his income from the US to cover the financial deficits to pay the salary of the staff there. So all what I can say, we are happy to serve the people of Cameroon and the neighboring countries, and we will continue to do our best to serve the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really want to appreciate Dr. Foreman for inviting me, and I really appreciate everybody who attended. Cancer care is a passion of mine. If I did not have passion for cancer, especially in my native country of Cameroon, I would not be in Cameroon, because you create an enmity for absolutely nothing. Even my own brother, if I may say so, think that you are some sort of threat, you are coming with this. So I also want to thank the government of Cameroon, because even though they've not given us financial support, they've not come to threaten to close us or to do anything like that. So we have worked relatively independently. They do not force anything on us, and that has to be commended. They are trying to work with us. They are putting every effort, but as I said, there are some people that think that we should not get the help that we need, which is okay. So it's not, I mean, Cameroon is not unique. Other countries face similar challenges where somebody wants to put a cancer program, the other person is preventing it. So I think the key for us moving forward is training, as been talked about by many people. So we have the Cameroon Oncology Center School of Health Sciences. So we actually have, I think, 14 training programs: radiation therapy, diagnostic imaging, and all sorts of things. We also will be putting in a program next year together with Dr. Chinda of the Chantal Biya Foundation in Yaoundé. He's an immunologist. He's really, really interested to put up a master level program with us at the University of Yaoundé. So there are so many good things that are coming. And then in terms of the residency, again, this is where I also have issues in Cameroon with the radiation oncologists, because if you say you need some more training in treatment planning, right? You think that you are saying that they don't know their job. And I've been accused, Sarah, that I say that they do not know their job. I say, no, you do your training on 2D. It's not that you cannot know something that you've not been trained on. So the idea was maybe they come and spend 6 months somewhere where they do 3D and get some further training. That's the way to equip yourself. But but when you say that, you think that you are trying to undermine them. I really do not want to undermine anybody. I respect anybody, everybody. So to me, again, the key is training and research and adaptation of some of the protocol used in the Western world, the US and Europe, to us. We cannot just use those protocols directly. We need to adapt them to our specific needs. So thank you, everybody.
Professor Mobit, thank you so much. And thanks a lot, Professor Walid, as well, and for the really excellent work that you all are doing with the COC in Cameroon. I just want to give Dr. Mono Format to make some closing remarks. Please, Dr. Format.
Sorry that you had to call me to close. Well, I just want to thank Professor Mobit for all what he's doing. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time, and to get the Cameroon public to know and understand what he's doing back in Bikoko so that we can help patients. It's not about where these patients or our affiliations, it's about helping patients get the best care. And not everyone can afford to go to India. And as we heard from Professor Walib, it's not always the best treatment they'll get there. And the standards in what Professor Mobit offers is excellent standard, up to quality with what is offered, and even superior to what is offered in some places in the US. So I don't see why we should not collaborate and make sure that we get patients there to get the best care that they need. So the town hall is an initiative that we created. If you're a Cameroonian and you're doing anything which you think it's worth discussing in the town hall, send us an email, we'll contact you. Our goal is not just today we're talking about radiation oncology and cancers. We talk about every single topic in healthcare, be it health policy or be it laboratory medicine or whatever. So our goal is to really shape the health system in Cameroon for a better healthcare in Cameroon, and so that those who are back home should receive the best quality of care. So we really appreciate your time, and thank you, Brian, for the dedication and the time you have for this. So others should not forget, we have what we call a, parking lot, which we spend about another 15 to 20 to 30 minutes just connecting. Those who are busy, you can sign out. We don't record that session. We just have a little chat, and some people may not want to say things because they work with the government, the way Africa is, and there you can express yourself freely. So we'll stop recording, and those things will be off the record. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dr. Mobit. Thanks a lot, Dr. Former. And Dr. Mobit, we will come up with a meeting summary for the discussions we've had today, and we will put this all together into a PDF and then share that with you later on. So thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.